If there is one thing I regret the most in life, it is my decision to move into a nursing home. 82 years of life. I have been through countless ups and downs, yet I never thought that my final years would become a series of lonely and regretful days. Back then, I believed I was making the right choice. My family assured me that it would be better, that there would be people to take care of me, and that I wouldn't have to worry about anything. They said I would live comfortably, no longer struggling. But then, the moment I stepped through the doors of the nursing home, I realized an entirely different truth. Gone was the warmth of my familiar home. Gone were the joyful sounds of my children and grandchildren around me. Each passing day I was left with nothing but 4 cold walls, unfamiliar faces, and an emptiness that could never be filled. I know that many out there are considering this choice, either for themselves or for their parents and grandparents. But before making that decision, are you certain you know the whole truth? Are you ready to trade everything familiar, your memories, your freedom, for a life you've never known? Take a moment and ask yourself, are you truly ready to give all of that up? I once thought I had made the right choice. At 82, when my children urged me to move into a nursing home, I believed it was the best option. A place with dedicated caregivers, no worries about meals or health, and most importantly, I wouldn't be lonely. But I was wrong. Terribly wrong. At first, everything seemed fine. The rooms were clean, the staff was friendly, and meals were served on time. But then, I realized that life here was nothing like what I had imagined. Day by day, I felt myself losing the most important things in life. If I could turn back time, I would never have made this decision. Maybe you're considering placing your parents or even yourself into a nursing home. But before you decide, let me share with you the 6 biggest regrets of life in a nursing home. I only wish I had known them sooner. Regret 1, losing independence. Do you know what the worst part of living in a nursing home is? It's when you realize that you no longer have control over your own life. Before, I was free to do whatever I wanted. I could wake up whenever I pleased, make myself a hot cup of tea, take a walk around the neighborhood, and chat with my neighbors. I could read at night without worrying about disturbing anyone. But after moving into the nursing home, all those simple pleasures disappeared. Here, we are bound by a strict schedule. Meal times, bedtimes, outdoor time, everything is dictated by others. I can no longer cook my favorite meals or go outside whenever I want. Everything must follow the nursing home's rules. One night, I wanted to stay up late to finish my book, but a staff member reminded me that it was bedtime. I felt like a child being supervised. The small habits that once brought me joy were slowly taken away. Over time, I lost the feeling of being in control of my own life. At first, I thought I could adapt, but as time passed, I felt more and more suffocated. I was no longer myself. I had become just another piece in the system, swept along by the routines set by others. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you truly willing to trade your freedom for a life where every aspect is controlled by someone else? Regret 2, the feeling of being forgotten. When my children suggested that I move into a nursing home, they promised to visit me often. They said I wouldn't be lonely, that they would always be there for me. But reality was different. In the first few weeks, my family visited regularly. They brought treats, shared stories about work, and talked about my grandchildren. I felt happy and warm, but then the visits became less frequent. At first, it was once a week, then once every 2 weeks, then once a month. Then plans were canceled at the last minute. On holidays, I sat alone in my empty room, staring out the window, waiting for a knock on the door that never came. Can you imagine how painful it is to be forgotten little by little? The loved ones who were once an inseparable part of my life now only appeared through hurried phone calls and brief text messages. I was no longer a priority. I had become a fading memory in the minds of those I loved most. I remember an elderly woman on my floor who always looked forward to her daughter's visits. Every week, she would dress up in her nicest outfit and sit by the door, waiting. But week after week, no one came. Eventually, she stopped waiting. She just sat quietly on her bed, staring into the distance. I knew what she was thinking, because I felt the same way. If you think a nursing home will make you feel less lonely, think again. The truth is, once you are no longer part of your family's daily life, you will slowly be forgotten. Regret 3. losing a sense of purpose. When I was still at home, I had small tasks that made me feel useful. I tended to my little garden, cooked for my children when they visited, and fixed things around the house. These small acts gave me a sense of purpose, a reason to wake up every day. But in the nursing home, everything is done for me. I don't need to cook, I don't need to clean, I don't need to do anything. It sounds comfortable, but the truth is, when you have nothing left to do, you start to feel useless. I remember an old man who was once a carpenter. When he was at home, he worked every day, repairing furniture and making toys for his grandchildren. But in the nursing home, he had no tools, no work, nothing to keep his hands and mind busy. Slowly, he lost his passion, his joy. He became quiet, withdrawn. One day he told me, "I have no reason to get up in the morning anymore." A sense of purpose isn't just about doing big things. Sometimes just knowing that you are still needed, that you can still contribute, is enough to make life meaningful. But in a nursing home, you lose that chance. Everything is already arranged for you, and you become nothing more than a spectator watching life pass by. Regret 4. Declining health faster than expected. Before moving into the nursing home, I could still walk on my own and handle simple household tasks. I cooked my own meals, cleaned up after myself, and sometimes even tended to my small garden. Despite my old age, I still felt strong, still in control of my own body. But just a few months after moving here, I realized my health was deteriorating much faster than I had ever imagined. In the nursing home, everything was done for me. I no longer had to cook, clean, go shopping, or do any household chores. At first, this seemed convenient, but it led to me moving less. Day by day, I just sat in my chair staring out the window or lay in bed waiting for mealtime. My legs began to weaken, and my steps became unsteady. I remember a woman on my floor who was still very active when she first arrived. Every morning she walked around the courtyard, chatting with others and enjoying the sunshine. But gradually, she walked less. On rainy days, she stayed inside. On cold days, she didn't want to go out. And then, after a few months, she stopped walking altogether. One day, I saw her sitting in a wheelchair, her eyes empty. When I asked her what happened, she just shook her head sadly and said, "My legs don't listen to me anymore." I looked at her and saw myself in her. I could feel my own body weakening day by day. Simple tasks like standing up from a chair or walking to the door had become challenges. The human body is like a machine. If it's not used regularly, it will rust and break down. If I had stayed at home, maybe I would have kept moving more, taking care of myself, and maintaining my body's flexibility. But here, because I didn't have to do anything, I slowly lost the ability to do everything. I never thought that moving into a nursing home would make my health decline so quickly. If I could turn back time, I wish I had chosen a different path, one that allowed me to stay active and independent instead of just sitting and waiting for time to wear me down. Regret 5. Losing privacy and dignity. When I was still at home, I had my own private space, a small but cozy room where I could do whatever I wanted without interruption. I could close my door when I needed solitude, listen to music, read a book, or simply sit in silence, lost in my own thoughts. But after moving into the nursing home, that privacy completely disappeared. Here, I had to share a room with a stranger. At first, I tried to adapt, but it wasn't always easy. We had different habits and different preferences. Sometimes I wanted to sleep early, but my roommate would keep the light on to read late into the night. Sometimes I just wanted peace and quiet, but the sound of their television made it impossible for me to relax. These small conflicts built up over time, making me feel like I no longer had control over my own living space. But the worst part wasn't just losing privacy in my room. It was the feeling of being constantly monitored. The nursing staff could enter my room at any time to check on me, whether I wanted them to or not. I understood they were just doing their job, but I couldn't help feeling uncomfortable. I no longer had control over my private moments. The greatest loss, however, was when I gradually lost the ability to take care of my own personal needs. When I was at home, I could bathe myself, dress myself, and take care of my hygiene. But as my health declined, I started needing assistance, and that was humiliating. I will never forget the first time I needed help going to the bathroom. The shame I felt was indescribable. A young nurse came to assist me. She was kind and professional, but I still felt like I had lost a piece of myself. That was the moment I realized my dignity was slipping away. In a nursing home, everyone is taken care of, but very few people still feel like themselves. When you no longer have control over even the smallest aspects of your life, you start to feel like just another patient being monitored and cared for, not an independent person. I once believed that a nursing home would give me a comfortable life, but I was not prepared for the loss of my privacy and dignity. If I could go back in time, I wish I had found another option, one where I could still hold on to my freedom and self-respect. Regret 6. Once you enter, it's hard to leave. When my children suggested I move into a nursing home, I told myself it was just a trial. I believed I could leave any time if I didn't like it, that this was only a temporary change. But I was wrong. Once you step in, leaving is not as easy as you might think. At first, I kept my house keys, believing that my home would always be there waiting for me. But as time passed, I realized things were no longer the same. The home I had lived in for so many years was no longer mine. Maybe my children had sold it, or rented it out for extra income. My belongings, the things filled with memories, were probably moved, given away, or discarded to make space for someone else. I no longer had a place to return to. Even if I wanted to leave, I was no longer capable. My body had grown weaker. Before I could cook for myself, go grocery shopping, and handle daily tasks. But after months in the nursing home, where everything was done for me, I lost those skills. I was no longer strong enough to shop alone, nor was I used to cooking or doing housework anymore. If I left, I would have to start over, but with a body far frailer than before. I also realized that the longer I stayed, the more dependent I became. I had grown used to being cared for, to having a fixed routine, to meals being served to me. And as that dependency deepened, the idea of leaving became even more daunting. I had unknowingly lost my independence. If I had known that moving into a nursing home was not a decision I could easily undo, I would have thought much more carefully. I would not have let myself fall into a situation where once I stepped in, there was no easy way out. A nursing home is not necessarily a bad choice. For some, it provides essential care, especially when health has severely declined. However, this decision is not a simple one. Behind the convenience and care, there are many sacrifices you may have to make. Your freedom, your privacy, your family connections, and even your physical and emotional well-being. If possible, try to maintain an independent life for as long as you can. Consider other options, such as hiring in-home caregivers, living with family, or creating an environment that allows you to keep your familiar routines. Before making the decision, think carefully. Ask yourself or your loved ones, is this truly the best option? Because once you enter a nursing home, the path back is not always easy. What are your thoughts on this topic? Share your opinions in the comments below. And if you found this content meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe to receive more insightful stories.